Dear students, welcome back to our English class. In the previous class, we were reading the beautiful story, His First Flight by Liam O'Flaherty, in which we saw a young seagull who was very afraid to fly. He believed that his wings would never support him. Though he tried for some time, he failed desperately and he ran back to his nest. Now, take page number 11, second paragraph. The sun was now ascending the sky, blazing warmly on his ledge that faced the south. He felt the heat because he had not eaten since the previous nightfall. Then he had found a dried piece of mackerel's tail at the far end of his ledge. Now, there was not a single scrap of food left. He had searched every inch, rooting among the rough, dirt-caked straw nest where he and his brothers and sister had been hatched. He even gnawed at the dried pieces of eggshell. It was like eating a part of himself. Yes. It was morning. The sun was now ascending the sky. Ascend means to go up. What is the opposite of that word? Ascending, descending. Okay. The sun was now ascending the sky, blazing warmly. Blazing means shining like a flame. Okay. So having a very bright display of light. It was blazing warmly on the ledge that faced the south. The ledge was facing the south side. He felt the heat. Okay, he felt the heat of the sun. Why? Because he had not eaten since the previous nightfall. He was so hungry, so he felt the heat of it. Generally, he wouldn't feel like that. Okay, so this time, because of his hunger, he felt the heat of that sunlight. Then he had found a dried piece of mackerel's tail at the far end of his ledge. He was so hungry and he was searching everywhere to get something to eat. And at the far end of his ledge, he saw a small piece of mackerel's tail. Mackerel is a very common fish in our area. Mackerel and sardine. Sardine is matti. Mackerel is ayala. Okay, very common fish. He saw a dried piece of mackerel's tail at the far end of his ledge. He had searched. Now there was not a single scrap of food left. Not even a single piece of food left. Not even a single piece of food was there on that ledge. Scrap means a small piece. He had searched every inch. He searched, he looked every inch of that ledge for food, and rooting among the rough, dirt-caked straw nests where he and his brothers and sister had been hatched. So, in that place, he and his brothers and sister had been hatched from the eggs. They came out of the egg in the same place, and it was very dirty. Straw was there because the mother bird laid egg on that straw to get warmth. Okay, so after some days, by taking the warmth of that straw and from the body of its the mother bird, they come out, or the eggs break and the young ones come out. So it was very dirty there, and dirt-caked. Dirt-caked means the dirt deposited there over and over, and it looked like chunks of or pieces of dirt everywhere. Okay, dirt-caked straw net he rooted. So he searched every inch of that ledge, dirt-caked straw net where he and his brothers and sister had been hatched. He even gnawed at the dried pieces of eggshell. He was so desperate and hungry. So he, in order to satisfy his hunger, he gnawed. Gnawed means kept biting. Okay, gradually go on biting something. That is gnaw. Gnawed at the dried pieces of eggshell. It was like eating a part of himself. See, knowing the dried pieces of eggshell was just like eating a part of himself. Why? It's a part of himself. He came out of that shell. Okay, so it's a part of himself. So it looked like, it felt like, it was like eating, knowing that eggshell was like eating a part of himself. Next paragraph. He then trotted back and forth from one end of the ledge to the other, his long grey legs stepping daintily, trying to find some means of reaching his parents without having to fly. But on each side of him, the ledge ended in a sheer fall of precipice, with the sea beneath, and between him and his parents there was a deep, wide crack. So, what did he do? He was completely desperate. He lost all his happiness, courage, and everything. He was so hungry too. He trotted back and forth from, trotted means ran with the very moderate steps, not too fast. Okay, he couldn't run fast because he was so hungry, and he trotted, he ran at a moderate speed because he was desperate. So he was running but not so fast. Okay, so trotted back and forth from that one end of the ledge to the other. He ran like this, his long grey legs stepping daintily. Daintily means move carefully with the small movements. His legs were grey in color, his long grey legs stepping daintily, otherwise he may fall down. Okay, trying to find some means of reaching his parents. He wanted to reach his parents. His parents were, where were his parents standing? On the next precipice. His parents were standing on another cliff. So the young seagull wanted to reach his parents. So he is trying to reach his parents by running back and forth. Okay, so but on each side of him the ledge ended in a sheer fall of precipice. He would run to this side and he would stop there because there's no other way to reach the parents, because there was a sheer fall of precipice. Precipice means a steep rock cliff with the overhanging face. Okay, a cliff or steep rock with the overhanging face, that is called precipice, with the sea beneath. And beneath it was a sea, and between him and his parents there was a deep, wide crack. The parents were standing on the next cliff. There is nothing. Nothing was there to connect these cliffs. So if there had been something, some connection, he could have walked over it and reached his parents. Okay, but a wide gap was there between himself and between him and his parents. A deep, wide crack. Surely he could reach them without flying if he could only move northwards along the cliff face. See, he could reach his parents without flying. That means he couldn't fly. Okay, so he is trying to reach his parents by some other means. by walking or so. So surely he could reach them without flying if he could only move northwards along the cliff face. Okay, if he could walk along the north side, along the cliff face, by the side of that cliff face, he could have reached his parents, but there is no means he couldn't walk through that way. But then on what could he walk? He could have, if he could walk along the face of that cliff, he could reach there, but there was nothing to walk over. Okay, there was no ledge. No ledge was there, and he was not a fly. He was not a fly. Fly means not a verb, a noun, like a house fly. See, insect. He was not a fly to fly to his parents. Yeah, and above him he could see nothing. When he looked above, nothing was there to climb over and walk over it. Nothing that sort of thing was there. The precipice was sheer, and the top of it was perhaps farther away than the sea beneath him. The precipice was sheer. Sheer means that the rock, overhanging rock, precipice, was sheer. Sheer means straight up or down. It was straight up and down, and in a vertical line. No ledge was there to walk over. Okay, it was very sheer, and the top of it was, the top of that precipice was farther away from the sea beneath him. It's far away, okay, than the sea beneath him. So no other way to reach his parents. He lost all his hopes. Then what did he do? He stepped slowly to the brink of the ledge, and standing on one leg with the other leg hidden under his wing, he closed one eye, then the other, and pretended to be falling asleep. Still, they took no notice of him. He saw his two brothers and his sister lying on the plateau, dozing, with their heads sunk into their necks. His father was preening his feathers on his white back. Only his mother was looking at him. Now he thought of a trick so that his parents would come near him. What was that trick? He stepped slowly to the brink of the ledge. He went to the edge of that ledge, and standing on one leg, he stood on one leg, and the other leg hidden under his wings. Okay, the other leg he hid under his wing. He closed one eye, then the other. Now he is standing on one leg. By closing both of his eyes, and pretended to be falling asleep. Pretend means making appear or make oneself appear to be doing something. Okay, so he acted. He pretended that he was falling asleep, and he was standing on one leg. Okay, anything could happen. So and he is standing at the brink of the ledge too. See, he may fall down. So his parents may come to him and help him. That was the trick. Still, they took no notice of him. Parents did not notice him. Okay, look at him even. He saw his two brothers and sister lying on the plateau, dozing. Dozing means sleep lightly, or nap. Another word is nap, nap, or snooze, snooze. To take a small sleep or light sleep. His brothers and sister were dozing, with their heads sunk into their necks. they sink means to dip something inside some other thing. Here they sink past tense sunk. They sunk their head under its neck. Then his father was preening his feathers. What was his father doing at that time? Preening his feathers. Preening means cleaning on his white back, like this. At the back of his its body, the father was cleaning. Okay. Only his mother was looking at him. His father was cleaning his back, and brothers and sisters were dozing, but only his mother was looking at him. She was standing on a little high hump on the plateau, her white breast thrust forward. Now and again she tore at a piece of fish that lay at her feet, and then scraped each side of the beak on the rock. The sight of the food maddened him. How he loved to tear food that way, scraping his beak now and again, to wet it. He uttered a low cackle. His mother cackled too and looked at him. So, his mother was standing on on a little high hump on the plateau. Hump means a raised portion on that flat area of rock plateau. She was standing on that high hump, and her white breast portion was thrusting forward, sticking forward. Now and again she tore a piece of fish. Tear means to cut. Okay, tore past tense, tore at a piece of fish that lay at her feet, and then scraped each side of her beak on the rock. What is scrape? Rubbed against a rough surface. To rub against a rough surface, that is scrape. She, after tearing the piece of that fish, she scraped each side of her beak on the rock in order to make it sharp. The sight of the food maddened him. When the small seagull saw that piece of fish under her feet, that sight maddened him, made him mad because of extreme hunger. Now he loved to tear food that way. He also would love to do that, but he cannot do that. Scraping his beak now and again. He also would love to do that, to tear the piece of fish and scrape his beak very often to make it sharp, to wet it. Wet means to sharpen. He uttered a low cackle. He gave out a cackling sound, low. Why? Because he was so hungry and disappointed. His mother cackled too and looked at him. "Ga, ga, ga," he cried, begging her to bring him over some food. "Gaula," she screamed back mockingly, but he kept calling plaintively. After a minute or so, he uttered a joyful scream. His mother had picked up a piece of fish and was flying across to him with it. He leaned out eagerly, tapping the rock with his feet, trying to get nearer to her as she flew across. But when she was just opposite to him, abreast of the ledge, she halted, her legs hanging limp, her wings motionless, the piece of fish in her beak almost within reach of his beak. "Ga, ga, ga," he cried, and begging her to bring him over some food. He was begging his mother to bring some food for him, and she replied, "Gaula." Okay, she screamed back mockingly. She was making fun of this little bird for his inability to fly. But he kept calling plaintively. He was continuously crying sadly. Plaintively means sadly, plaintively. He was crying plaintively, and after a minute or so, he uttered a joyful scream. See? For some time, he was crying sadly, so sadly, and begging for a piece of fish. But after some time, he was screaming, means crying aloud, making a very loud, sharp cry, screaming because of happiness. What had happened? See, after crying desperately, sadly, the next moment he was extremely joyful. What happened? His mother had picked up a piece of fish. Okay, his mother took a piece of fish and was flying across to him with it. That sight made him filled with joy. Okay, he saw his mother picking up a piece of fish under her claws of her feet, and she was flying towards him with it. He leaned out eagerly, so he wanted to get it. So he leaned his body eagerly, with eagerness. He leaned his body to get it, and tapping, he tapped his legs on the rock with his feet, trying to get nearer to her as she flew across. She was flying across, she was flying towards him, and he couldn't wait for any longer. So he wanted to get that piece of fish. So he leaned his body and he was tapping his legs. But what happened? When she was just opposite to him, abreast to the ledge, abreast means very next to. When she reached abreast to the ledge or very next to the ledge, what happened? She halted. She stopped flying, and legs hanging limp. Legs were not moving. Limp, like a limp. Limp means inability to walk. Here it was not moving. Okay, she kept her feet limp. Okay, legs hanging limp, her wings motionless. She was not flapping her wings. That means she was staying in air, okay, without flying. The piece of fish in her beak almost within reach of his beak, and she was very near to him, and that beak with that fish was so near to him, and he was trying to catch it by leaning his body forward. And after that, what happened? Did he get that piece of fish? He waited a moment in surprise, wondering why she did not come nearer, and then, maddened by hunger, he dived at the fish. With a loud scream, he fell outwards and downwards into space. His mother had swooped upwards. As he passed beneath her, he heard the swish of her wings. So everything was very unexpected. Okay, everything happened all of a sudden. He couldn't believe that. He was so surprised. He waited for a moment in surprise, wondering. He was wondering why my mother is not giving that piece of fish to me. He was wondering. she did not come nearer. Why did she not come nearer to me? And then, maddened by hunger, he had already become maddened by hunger. What did the bird do? He dived at the fish. He did not think about anything. He was only thinking about satisfying his hunger. Otherwise, he thought that he would die of hunger. Okay, so he dived at the fish. He didn't think about the vast expanse of the sea and anything else. So he dived towards that fish with a loud scream. With a loud, sharp scream, he fell outwards from the ledge. Okay, he jumped out from that ledge and downwards into space. Nothing was there. He jumped outwards from the ledge into the space. His mother had swooped upwards. Swoop means to move suddenly and steeply down, especially to attack. Okay, that is swoop down. Swoop means to move suddenly downwards as if to attack, especially to attack. You must have seen the eagle swoops down. An eagle swoops down and carry away the chicks. Okay, so his mother swooped here. His mother swooped upwards. Okay, and as he passed beneath her, and he passed beneath her, he was flying. Was he flying? Was he flying? Never. He was falling down. He couldn't fly. Okay, he hadn't learned to fly, so he was falling down, and he passed beneath her. At that time, he heard the swish of her wings. Swish means the sound of her wings moving. Swish. It's a kind of word that sounds like the movement of a wing when a bird flies. Okay, so it's a kind of a poetic device that's called onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia. That means that word sounds like the real object. For example, a ringing of the bell. When we say this word, it sounds like the ringing of a bell. Okay, and splashing of the water, and hissing of bird. The hiss of a bird. That the word itself sounds like the sound produced by a snake. Okay, hissing. So another very familiar word is buzzing of a bee. A bee buzzes. Okay, so that swish of that his mother's wings, he could hear it very clearly. Okay, when he was falling down beneath her. Then what happened? A monstrous terror seized him, and his heart stood still. He could hear nothing, but it only lasted a moment. The next moment, he felt his wings spread outwards. The wind rushed against his breast feathers, then under his stomach and against his wings. He could feel the tips of his wings cutting through the air. He was not falling headlong now. He was soaring gradually downwards and outwards. He was no longer afraid. He just felt a bit dizzy. Then he flapped his wings once and he soared upwards. We will finish this story the next time in the next class. Until then, goodbye from me.